All right, howdy everyone. Come on in, grab a seat. We got just tons of content here. We got to get cruising. No, not really. So this is kind of a how I spent my summer vacation for everybody here on the stage, as well as a half dozen other people who have designed cool little mini badges. So it's going to be kind of a slideshow, but going to save plenty of time for you to ask some questions at the end. Or if you have questions throughout, just go ahead and shout them out, and I'll do my best to repeat them. But here joining me on the stage, I'm Luke Jenkins. We got Clint Holmes, Jonathan Karras, and Dustin Woodard. And we're here to talk about the badge. So fast facts, let's go through these. Raspberry Pi Zero, 16 gig SD card, TFT LCD display module, an accelerometer on a module. It's a very Lego badge. And a button layout. Many of you probably recognize, we won't say who it is, they're very litigious. 4 mini badge slots. Mini badges were big hits. Then at the top there we got 2 RGB LEDs to let you know when you're being attacked in the game. So we had a lot of people ask us, hey, why do I have to build my badge? And the people to ask that question to is everybody, like 80–90% of the people who filled out the survey and mentioned the badge said that they loved that it was a project. So it's a very vocal minority that didn't like having it pre-assembled for them. And it's a fun project. 2-layer PCB, designed in EagleCAD. The total cost for the badge, does this include Q&A or development, R&D? I think so, yeah. We had a pretty tight budget there. So total cost ended up being right around $45 per badge. So I did the hardware. Jonathan did a custom Raspbian build with a bunch of cool automation stuff. Clint did the badge OS in the game, and Dustin curated our awesome art. So this was version 0.1. This was our first PCB we made. We had a couple of little breadboardy kind of guys, but you'll notice the green color. No mini badges. They have the accelerometer off to the side there that we had to move to make room for the mini badges. But it's got the Raspberry Pi and the screen. Now it was a touch screen that we ended up bailing on the touch screen because it made it too dim and went just button based. We went with a second revision of the board. It looks really similar to what you ended up with, but you'll see some extra traces there and the older logo. We're able to get all the traces onto the back of the badge, of the PCB, so it's a nice clean look, or hidden under the screen and the Raspberry Pi there. You can see the different backgrounds for the mini badge surface to reflect on. We wanted to try out a couple of different ones. And I was going to be driving back from Tahoe and generated the Gerber, zipped them up, sent them off to Jonathan, who handled all of our logistics, and said, Jonathan, will you get another revision ordered? And didn't tell him, and by the way, I included a footprint I want to try out with white silkscreen. He's like, I'm going to try out yellow with black silkscreen. It's going to look awesome. So I didn't try that out, but the silver just looked so much better. The exposed copper with the hot air surface level on there. So that's what we went with all of them. And that's where we ended up with this guy. So this was version 1.0. We generated the black one first that we used for the prize badge and our final check. But it worked out great, so we told the board house, run us 1,020 or so of those. Same thing, just invert the colors, yellow PCB with a black silk screen on it. And it turned out real good. So if anybody on the crowd hasn't gotten a chance to assemble their badge yet in the hardware hacking village, there's a couple of pitfalls to avoid, things we've been seeing a lot of last night and today. Make sure your Raspberry Pi logo, you can see that nice little Raspberry Pi. Otherwise, you get it on backwards, and you're going to have a hard time getting it working there. Another one is assemble the standoffs and the screws, the headers, get that nice little stack going, and then solder. Make sure everything's nice and lined up. We had a lot of the female headers that are kind of leaning off there, and same thing on the screen. Just holds it in place, makes it super easy to solder. Finally, test, then trim and foam. So you don't have to leave tons of leads coming off all your components, but leave a little bit of lead there, and don't put on the sticky foam yet, because we've had probably good, what would you say our success rate is? We don't hear from everybody, but probably 3/4 of the people do it just great, walk out, say thanks, and they're on their way. But about a quarter of the people need a little bit of help, like, hey, my button doesn't work, my accelerometer doesn't do anything, my screen's black, help. And we often have to then peel back that foam and look for cold solder joints or issues. And if you just come up and test it out and come up and be like, hey, this isn't working before we put on the foam, it saves some foam and a little bit of mess there. Go ahead.
The other pitfall is similar to the Raspberry Pi. If people are putting their accelerometer on upside down occasionally, on the board it says chips up, so just make sure your chips are facing up, not that you're seeing just silk screen on the accelerometer. That's the only other thing.
So this is a fun project to do. We wanted to thank the following people. It's also in the badge system, similar list, but a little bit more drawn out here. Troy Jessup, founder of the con, and lets us get away with spending quite a chunk of change on a project that we've had a good success rate on, but it's always risky. But the Utah Saint nonprofit organization board of directors, the conference committee for the SAINTCON conference, all the volunteers, all the staff, the venue, Eben Upton and Mike Buffum with the Raspberry Pi Foundation. So the other people who do conference badges and like DEF CON badges and all that, they were amazed that we were able to get and source 1,000 Raspberry Pis. These little guys, they're getting to be more common, but when we needed to commit to a form factor and a device to use, they were still just like, you could occasionally get one of them for 20, 30 bucks, just marked up like crazy, and we can't do a badge with that. We needed to know we could source them. So Cheryl Morris, who's one of the volunteer staff for the conference, she had worked on a maker fair with Eben Upton, the founder of Raspberry Pi, way back in the day, and so she's able to make an introduction for us to get us in touch with their folks, and it was just, oh yeah, we can sell you 1,000 here, send us a PO, and we'll establish all this, and importing and all that. So it would not have happened without them, so special thanks to them. The Curious Codes team, Crypt, Moss, and Clutch. If you look on the back, you've got some great artwork that, that was a tough one to get all imported and looking good, but it was worth it. So there is a special code that you got to go chat with them and have them help you decipher that. And I forgot to include him here, but Zevlag for the Hacker Challenge, they're underneath the Raspberry Pi. There's another piece of artwork there that he had me include to give you guys a challenge to work on. And then all the MiniBadge creators. These we published the spec for the MiniBadge 3 months or so ago when we were firming it up. If that, no, it was when it was into July, early August. It was after DEF CON, but we published the spec. And the number of people who were able to crank out a MiniBadge that just put the ones we did to shame was amazing. It was some really cool stuff. So with that, we want to kind of do show and tell of the MiniBadges since they're kind of the belle of the ball. We got the Lockpick Village and the speaker up there at the top, front and back of all of them. This was a picture I took early enough. I didn't include the back of the Hacker Challenge guy there, but we got the staff volunteer badge there. The vault, if you go and complete the vault. Oh, I should tell you. Okay, Lockpick Village, you go and complete a task. It's either, what was it, Jonathan? What would you?
So I talked to Lonnie, there's a safe down there. If you crack the safe, there's usually one in the safe. And otherwise, he's got those things set out on the table. And if there's a bunch of people around him, he'll toss one in. And Piranha style, whoever gets through the lock the quickest gets one. That's how he's handing them out. I believe in Hardware Hacking Village, we're giving them out if you complete one of the hardware hacking things over on those computers and stuff, as well as other things. That's the proto board down there.
Hacker Challenge, you'll have to ask Zevlag. I know he gave them to past winners and people who did really top couple scorers, but it might just, generally it's to impress the people who are handing them out. You make them go wow and you're awesome and they give you one. Oh, hey Zevlag. So we got Josh there in the back who runs the Hacker Challenge. All right, so he said if you solve pre-con 3, which is a pre-conference challenge, go talk to him and he's got one for you. Otherwise, you do a bunch of the challenges enough to impress him and go chat him up and he'll get you one. And then do we have anybody from the vault tier? Lean, do we know for sure? How, it's probably you go attempt the vaults, or you kicked butt at it last year. I can give you that one. So other independent ones, Hack in the Box, which is kind of the unofficial offsite evening hangout party space, hacker space. They have a really cool one. It's this little green guy here. I don't know what camera, but they did an awesome job. 3D printed, UV resin printed piece on it. This is the big glowing there, microcontroller and some RGB LEDs, all in 0.8 by 0.8 inches of PCB. They did a great job. DC-801, Hamster, and Nemus and some of that crew, they've got those LEDs, do some cool stuff. And you got our old buddy Helga there. 208, this one, some friends from Idaho, Fracty made this guy. It's going to have little LEDs, and it's got a microcontroller on the back. It's going to do some cool stuff. Psychoholics with Cruxies coming in later this week. That's lit through the PCB material there. It's a really cool effect he has. And then it's like caution radiation or danger radiation in the Russian there, or Ukrainian, I think Russian. I heard that there's a tinfoil hat talk thing, something somewhere. You gotta find them, and that one I don't know a lot about, even though I made it. Those guys are doing their own thing. And then here's mine, giving it out to friends and people who do cool stuff at the con. Love that color purple. So, those are the official slides we've got, but wanted to leave plenty of time for questions on what we did, why, questions you have about what you can do with the badge. And so shout out your questions, and I'm going to repeat them because we're going to put this up on YouTube. So. So the question was about the traces going to the MiniBadges. On this badge, so the MiniBadge footprint, we try to make it to where it can last for numerous badges, both SAINTCON and otherwise. And the layout there, as you can see, it's in 8 pins on the top, 8 pins on the bottom. We've got 5 volts, 3.3 volts ground. We also have I2C this year tied on the SAINTCON 2017 badge back to the Raspberry Pi. And on the footprint, but not tied back to the Raspberry Pi this year because the display is SPI. There's 4 pins that are no connect, don't connect, kind of for future use. And this is kind of just a spec, not a standard. So if you're going to do a mini badge, you can use those for whatever you want. Just know that if we do decide to implement those, somebody comes out with a cool new wire protocol, we want to do one wire or something, we want to be able to add that later. And if you designed a mini badge today and use those for something like programming, it might screw up and you might not be able to use it in the SAINTCON 2019 badge or the blank con if they implement the mini badge spec. So get creative, but it's a trade-off you got to do. Another common question about the mini badge spec is how much power can I pull? For the SAINTCON badge, we're running 3.3 through a 500 milliamp PTC fuse, driving everything 3.3, and that's kind of limited by the regulator on the Raspberry Pi. The 5 volt is, there's no active electronics between the USB and the 5 volt line, so we went with a 1 amp fuse there just to try and prevent anybody shorting things out and burning out traces. So. Otherwise, it'll depend badge to badge. Hamster with the DC-801 badge, he included a couple of different resistor values. It was a great, smart thing to do because I hadn't said how much he could draw. But we'll try and publish next year if we include the mini badge design in the badge. We'll try and get it out way earlier and give you more guidance on, okay, we're going to have this much power budget between the number, and so please use no more than X amount. We'll also let you know. Hopefully we'll be able to have both I2C and SPI tied back to any active controller. But one thing you could do, going back to the question included the accelerometer, you could pull the accelerometer data. You might end up with a little bit of conflict there, but from the accelerometer, it's the same I2C bus. So you could pull, if you had a microcontroller on your mini badge, get accelerometer data but you would be contending with the Raspberry Pi, so might work, might not. So give it a try, let us know. Any other, right up front here? Why did I use the blank, blank, blank button layout? So last year we used the blank, blank and 8-bit console layout, and it was great, I liked it. But one of the features, we had a Raspberry Pi, more guts, more CPU horsepower. So you would be able to, emulate your favorite homebrew ROMs for that platform based on the Raspberry Pi Zero W. So we wanted to make sure you had the buttons to be able to play that homebrew. So no problem. Did you have some? Yeah. There you go. Any other questions? Any easy ways to modify the settings in the Raspberry Pi? What did you have in mind? Oh, there we go. Question about the software, Clint.
No. What's there is there. If you decide to root your Raspberry Pi and dump all the stuff and add stuff, good for you. I'm not going to help with that endeavor, but yeah, I encourage it.
Are pull requests welcome?
Yeah, after the con.
All right, yeah, after the con, Clint will maintain the repo for a while, and we'll publish the badge source. We got the schematic up. It wasn't earlier today, but it's up now. I'll release all the EagleCAD files after the con, and we'll release all the software as well. So you'll be able to. And sorry, there's Comp Kid Mike up here at the front who has a cool mini badge. I couldn't find the picture quick enough to get it up there, but you'll have to check it out. You're doing a talk tomorrow in the village? Thursday in the village. You have a time on that? Thursday at 10 o'clock, go see Mike, and he has a couple of his mini badges to give away. That's really cool. It's an 8x8 matrix, LED matrix with a microcontroller. So, other questions? All right, well, we're going to end a little bit early. We've got a very important talk coming up next to understand some VIPs coming in. So we got to clear out a little bit early here to give them some time to secure the room. But if you have any questions, we're hanging out mostly down in the Hardware Hacking Village. Come down and chat us up. So thank you.